Hi, I should have made this video a long time ago, but I'm a procrastinator. I'm always behind. So I've been selling the Orb Record Flatteners for a while and experimenting with record cleaning, record flattening. I even came up with an idea to perfectly center a record and punch a new hole in the middle. But yeah, it would weigh like 300 pounds. It's not really a viable product. What happens with most records, or vinyl records made since the 50s, you have what's called Groove Guard. Groove Guard was introduced by RIAA to protect the playing surface, this little area here, from record changers. So what they did was they made a raised outer rim, or lip, and the label area is thicker. So these two areas, the label, the lip on the outside, they should be the same thickness. And whenever you're using a record changer, the arm shouldn't touch the playing surface if the record isn't warped. That's a caveat. So the record, if it's not warped, the record changer arm won't damage the record. The cartridge will, you know. So people have been trying to flatten warps for a long time with various levels of failure. And the first time I heard of flattening records, it involved 2 panes of glass and your kitchen oven. You know, the ovens that they sell to the public, you know, mom and pop, you know, your family, have very poor temperature regulation. What happens is they will overshoot the temperature a lot by the time they've cut off the heating elements. So it gets to a temperature, it cuts off the elements, but it continues to get hotter. And so you have these wild fluctuations above and below, which is not such a big deal if you're cooking a casserole or whatever, but it'll destroy most records. So there's been a lot of different experiments trying to get rid of warps, including clamps and periphery clamps and vacuum hold down, and I have all those things. And yeah, they work, but it makes playing back a record kind of a pain to put a clamp on the middle and a periphery ring around the outside, or use vacuum hold down, things like that. So Orb started making a record flattener, I guess about 20 years ago, maybe longer. I really don't know the history, but started selling them a few years ago. And I've received a lot of follow-up questions that go something like, I had a warp, I put it in there, it made it better, but there's still some warp left. And I cycled it through 3 or 4 times, and I can't get rid of this smaller warp. And if you look at a record with Groove Guard and say 2 pieces of glass, which the Orb has 2 pieces of glass. You know, glass is preferable because you can clean it. If you took that and you did a cross section, you have your label area, your the outer lip or edge, and you have the playing surface that's thinner, and it can go up and down. It can do whatever it wants to do. You can't make it mind. So if you had a big warp, you know, big dish warp, it'll get rid of most of that warp. What you have left over is a wavy record. That the record flattener, it doesn't matter how many times you cycle through it, it's not going to get rid of that, and it's completely futile. So, having considered the problem, I just started making rings, or as I like to think of them, donuts for records. This is white poster board. It's thick stuff. It's about 18 thousandths of an inch thick each piece. And if you look at different records, the raised areas are of varying thickness. So it's not universal. If you take 20 different records and you measure them with a micrometer, they're all going to be slightly different because, they're not made for NASA or the U.S. military or whatever. I took one record, measured it. The rim and the label was about 80 thousandths of an inch thick. The playing surface was 60 thousandths of an inch thick. So it leaves about 20 thousandths. That's 0.020 inch or inches. And so what you can do is you can take both of these if you want to, one below the record, one on top of the record, and cycle through. But with these on top and bottom of the record, not much of the record's actually touching the glass plates, and it slows down the process a lot. So you can use other pieces of paper, other kinds of paper. Here's parchment paper. It's 2 thousandths of an inch thick. Regular paper is 4 thousandths of an inch thick. I just started looking around for something that was 10 thousandths of an inch thick, where if you use a piece on top and a piece below, that would be kind of the optimal thickness. And I found this Uline advertisement, and this cardstock is about 10 thousandths of an inch thick. And if you make rings of this kind of cardstock, you would, at least with this one record I picked out, be able to get it really, really flat. And as long as you hold the vinyl playing surface parallel with the glass plates through the heating cycle, it will come out maybe not perfectly flat, but a lot flatter than if you were not using something like this paper or whatever. There are other options. You can use just a thick piece of felt on top and bottom, as long as the felt is uniformly thick, that it's decent, and that it isn't, if it doesn't have varying thickness, it can do the same thing. But my problem with felt is that it has, it attracts dust. And no matter what you do, it's just going to suck up all the dust. Every bit of dust in your house is going to wind up on that felt. And the more you try to clean it, the more dust will get on it. So I don't want to use any kind of felt or fabric or anything like that. I suppose you could use something like silicone rubber if it was thick enough. But that's going to slow down the flattening process because it's going to basically insulate the record. So as far as I could figure out, this is kind of the optimal way of flattening a record, whether it's 2 pieces of glass or an Orb Record Flattener, is to make these donuts and of various thicknesses. You don't want it to be too thick, but just enough to take up the gap that is created by Groove Guard. And if you do that, you'll have better results. Nothing's perfect. Records come out of the presses warped because they pull them out of the press too quickly, and they come out not just warped but stretched if they pull them out too quickly. And sometimes you'll have like an area of the record that is thicker because it's a mispress. So there are a lot of things that can screw up your records. Even audiophile pressings, I've seen a lot of those butchered because they're making them as fast as they can, and the market is good, which is good. I hope they keep making lots and lots of records. Anyway, I'll try to make a better version of this video sometime in the future, but I hope this helps with people who have this same question about my record isn't perfectly flat. Well, and this is basically the reason why. It's because of Groove Guard. Thank you.